I'm just getting ready to play a game of 49 football, and I've decided to play a game using the Chicago Bears, the 2016 3-13 Chicago Bears. So why would I do something like that? Well, they were the first NFL team that I started to follow, and so I thought I'd play a rivalry game with them, and probably their biggest rival, they're the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers. And so I thought I'd just see how I would do with a game like that. So I'm just getting set up here. You can see the game's pretty easy to set up. It doesn't take a whole lot because everything is condensed down into these team charts. And there's actually 2 charts for each team. This is Chicago's. The individual skill players are here. You've got some special plays, the team's influence, at least their starting influence, and that'll change throughout the game. Their defensive chart, and then you've got a chart here for their kicking and their returns and interception returns. And then the key to the solitaire game is the player selection chart, which is just on the flip side there. And then when I want to play with the quick play rules, you need to make up this little chart here, which I did, and it takes less than 5 minutes to do it. It looks like there might be a lot of numbers on there, but it all comes from this one chart here, picking the Chicago offense versus the Green Bay defense to create this chart. So I've been asked the question a few times, and I thought I would just do a quick video to answer the questions. And the number one is like, why did I end up doing this, making a game of football that actually covers the Canadian football and American football? And you know, when I was retiring, I started reading a lot of stuff about retiring, and the one thing there was no consensus on was when you should take your Social Security, or how much money you should have, or if you should pay your house off or not, or all those kind of questions. But the one consensus that there was that you need to stay active, and both mentally and physically active. And part of the mental activities you can do, you've probably heard people say you should do Sudokus or crossword puzzles. I thought, I wonder if I could kind of do some of that with the football game. And so that's kind of what I tried to do with the way that I've designed the game. Like the first couple of iterations of the game were way too complex. I've narrowed it down so that it's easy to set up. Once you get the flow down, it's fairly easy to play, but you're going to have to remember numbers. And so that was one of the keys for cognitive memory as we get older, is being able to keep track of numbers and doing simple adding and subtracting. And so that's one of the premises behind why the game got to be the way it is here. And when I first developed it, I wanted a game that I could play along with the current season with my favorite team in Canada and the Seattle Seahawks in the NFL. And I've done that now for a couple of years, and it works really well because these team charts, they take anywhere from, if I'm just updating it from week to week, it might take me 20 or 30 minutes to update it. If I'm creating a new chart, like an opposition chart, that might take me 45 minutes to an hour. But when I'm creating it, I'm kind of looking down on the stats. I can see the opposition, where their strengths and weaknesses are. So I kind of formulate a game plan as to how my game's going to work out. The game also works really good in replays. I've replayed the 2015 Seattle season. I replayed the 2016 BC season. I put the BC season, the stats I think were both on the Delphi forum and the Facebook forum. And it was really good. They were very close. And actually, both those, the playoffs worked out almost identical. I wasn't able to get either one to the championship game, but I sure had a lot of fun playing it, and really, isn't that what it's all about? So, where the game is at right now is, for a game developer, one of the things, especially a game like football, that's really hard to do is figure out how much variability you should put into the game, because I could develop a game that would play out exactly like a game that's going to go on this weekend, or a game that has gone on. Maybe it had to be past tense, and you could actually make everybody do exactly what they did. But what's the fun of that, right? We want to do a little what if scenario. And so knowing how much variability to put in the game is important, and that's probably taken me the most amount of time. So last couple of games I played on my Canadian replay with the BC Lions, I'm doing an in-season replay. They had a home-and-home series with Saskatchewan. The first game was in Vancouver. My replay, and I posted the results of my replay before the game is played, and I posted them on the Facebook forum. And in the first game in Vancouver, Saskatchewan came in and just totally controlled the game. Travis Lulay was in at backup a quarterback. He threw a couple of interceptions in the first quarter. I could just never get BC's offense on track. Scored a touchdown late in the fourth quarter and lost 38-20. That touchdown just made the score sort of respectable. In the actual game, it was the BC Lions who just completely dominated the game. Saskatchewan couldn't do anything right, and the final score was 30-15. Saskatchewan scored 2 late fourth quarter touchdowns to make the score respectable. So, had the kind of results of the game right, but just opposite for the way the teams were. So then the next weekend, the game's in Regina. And so I play the game, and the charts were basically the same. There wasn't a whole lot of difference from one week to the next. There was a couple of receivers who had some different, but slight differences in some of their calculations. And so basically playing with the same charts, and Jonathan Jennings is back in as starting quarterback for BC. He throws for 324 yards in the first half. BC builds a 26-0 lead, like total opposite of what happened the weekend before. Well, then I watched the real game, and Jonathan Jennings came back and played the game for BC, and he sucked. He was bad. He was out of rhythm. They actually took him out of the game for a little while because he just was out of sorts. Well, the score was 29-0 for Saskatchewan at halftime. My score was 26-0 BC. The finals ended up 41-8 in the real game and 40-10 in my replay, but again, I had the teams wrong. And so it's not that a game like this is going to be able to predict exactly what's going to happen in a game, and that's not my intent here to ever say that. I don't think a game should ever say that. But what it showed me was that the amount of variability I have is just about right. Because after I played the game where BC, and this was like the day before the real game played, and BC went in and they won 40-10. And I'm thinking, well, how could they lose a game basically with the same charts the weekend before? They lose 38-20, and then they're going to turn around and win 40-10. I'm thinking, that can't happen in real life. I need to go back and just keep working the variability within the game. So I was quite relieved when I watched the game, even though my team, my Lions, took it on the chin. It just showed me that, the game works. This is going to play like a real game, whether it's a CFL game or an NFL game. And then after that, I replayed the Super Bowl. And I played it a few times with an earlier version of the game. New England, I think, has won every time. And I played it again. And it was interesting how the game played out. It was kind of similar in that New England turned the ball over 3 times in the first half. Brady threw an interception. And Brady's interception rating is very low. He only threw 2 interceptions all year, and the rating in the card is a 1 out of a 20 when there's a chance for an interception. So you roll a D20, and if you roll a 1, then there's an interception. So I thought, there's no way he's going to throw an interception in the Super Bowl. Come on. And so I thought, well, if I'll roll again, and if it's a 1-4, then I'll say, okay, it is an interception. And I rolled another one, so it was an interception. And then I had the light bulb go on that he actually did throw an interception in the Super Bowl, right? So played the game out. The final score was 31-26. Atlanta scored with just under 2 minutes to go to kind of put them within 1 score, so they tried an onside kick. But it just was amazing with the stats were pretty close. Brady, I think he threw 55 times, and I played the quick version with the quick rules, solitaire offense only. So it's not like I was affecting the play at all. It was all done through the solitaire system. But I could play that game again, and maybe I will, and it'll come out differently. New England will probably win again because I haven't been able to get Atlanta to win the game yet, but it won't play out the same way, I don't think. Anyway, that just, wanted to tell you a little bit about the variabilities there are within the game. Now, there's a couple things that I need to still do some work on, and one of them is injuries. I've got an injury chart, and so really when I've been playing the game, I play off the charts. I don't have all the fringe players listed here. Maybe in another year, once the basics game's down and all I'm doing is updating teams, I'll be able to have a secondary chart that has the fringe players already rated. But how to rate a player comes with the game, so you'll be able to do that if that's what you like to do. And then the other thing is weather. And I really didn't think a whole lot about weather because when I'm playing my in-season play-along, I'll use the exact same weather as happened in the game, and whether I need to look ahead at the town and see what the weather's going to be in 2 days' time, or whether I play it afterwards. And I always just play the weather the way the weather was. And same with most of the players, I'll do the same thing. I'll usually pick the players, if I'm doing a replay, that were involved in the game. So injuries and weather probably a little bit behind. They'll definitely get a good upgrade for 2018. And I've got some other good ideas like building audibles in and a few things. But the core premise is the game's going to be this quick to set up. The main players are going to be on a team chart. I'm going to use a team defense. And you'll see that there's ways that you can deal with injuries as well, and that's coming up. So basically, in a nutshell, that is 49 football. That's why 49 football came to be. I think I've probably played too many games of it now, and I really enjoy playing it. And it's actually taken away from my development time on some of the things that I should work on the little details to make a final product. But my promise to you is that I'm going to keep making this game better and better. And yeah, you might want to check out a couple of the videos that I have on the game sequences, and they're different. So I've actually made a couple of changes to the National Football League game, the American game, and including the solitaire charts are a little bit different than the Canadian. So if you're watching them, you want to make sure if you're playing the North and you want to play the Canadian version, try and pick the Canadian play sequence videos, and same with the NFL. Anyway, time for me to play my game and see how Chicago does.